Hopefully I'm live. I can't quite tell. There's always a little bit of a delay between when you hit live and like when you're actually live. So can't quite tell. But if I'm live, put a zero down inside the chat. Put a zero down in the chat just so you can help me out and let me know if I am live. I see some zeros down in the chat. So I think I'm live. So today I wanted to share like how my mentorship student got 3 monthly clients and then like one cleanup client. About $4,250 in monthly recurring revenue in about 43 days of working together. So specifically, so we got 3 clients and one cleanup, right? So that's $1,500 a month for the first client, $2,000 per month for the second client, $750 per month for the third client, breaking down to about 4,250. The cleanup, it was more of like a setup slash catch up project for about $2,100. Now there was two lead sources that she used to do that. Number one was LinkedIn. Number two was letters, and we're gonna kind of break that down specifically what she did. So the first thing was really covering like the mindset of like what she actually had to do because she had lost a client right before we started working together, and like she used to think that you would have to spend like 3 to 6 months knowing, like getting to know the person before they'd be willing to pay her like high amounts of money. So like she had like a client, and the client was paying her, I think it was like $1,000 a month. And she had the person for about, I believe it was like 6 months. She was working with that person, and that person just decided to go a different direction. Now the challenge was for a lot of people, if you don't know how to go and build a relationship very quickly, especially like utilizing like social media or using the internet, right? It can take forever for you to go and like recreate like your client list if you lose a client. And it's very hard for a lot of people to kind of like make that money back up as quickly as possible. And before we go into this any further, let's do this thing. So we are doing this video for free, so I'm not getting paid for this video. So one way you can kind of help me and support me is by either engage with a comment, leave a like, a comment, or even sharing the post so other people can see this post as well. So if you're watching this thing live, write hashtag team live so I know I'm here. I can make it a little more interactive. If you're watching the replay, type in hashtag team replay, and I know that I can go and do some things and make it better. I forgot I was going to use my better camera today, but I'm learning how to hook my EOS camera, like my Canon EOS M50, to this thing, but I just did not get a chance to do it because I was in a rush today. Um, but yeah, and if you want some help growing your business, like maybe you've been trying to grow your business, you just don't exactly know exactly what you don't know, and you know there's something that's in your way that's stopping you or causing you not to hit your goals or get the clients that you want as fast as what you could be, go ahead and click on the link either above or below the video to book a call with me to see if I can help you out inside of our mentorship program. So going back into what we're talking about. So the first thing was a mindset. So you have to understand that if you believe that it takes a long time to get clients, you're going to start doing different things that kind of sabotage your success. So for her, for example, she thought it'd take like 3 to 6 months to get a client. So rather than actually going and asking if they wanted to work with her, she would just like do like little either here and there, back and forth, like interactions to kind of like get to know them. Like, what are your kids' name? What are your dogs? Like what schools did you go to? What are your any alumni associations? Try and build a relationship based on like personal things, right? So I would just like have our sales cycle, and the sales cycle just means like how long from when the person knows you exist to when they actually sign up with you for the first time. It was very long for her. So in some cases, it would take up to like a year to sign a client. That's crazy. So the key thing to kind of let her know is that strangers are willing to pay you more than $1,500 per month if they find value in what you do, if they trust you can actually help you. And then the last thing is like. It's like know, like, and trust, right? Know, like, and trust. But out of those three, like is actually one of the lower deciding factors on the scale. Do they trust you to do the work is very important. Do they know you exist? It's even more important than do they like you is kind of a byproduct. Because you can have clients that will work with you who might not like you. They'll respect you and they trust you, but they might not like you. Like they probably wouldn't have like dinner with you. They wouldn't go out to dinner with you because they just don't like you like that, right? So, but as long as you understand that, then you can start really condensing those sales cycles and start getting clients a lot faster. So, marketing. In order to go and get those clients, the first part we're going to talk about is LinkedIn. So there's three factors when it comes to LinkedIn, right? Selection, speed, and the network growth. So for most people, we're going to start with a profile. So most profiles are not written in a way that actually works to attract clients, right? It talks about your work experience and maybe reads more of like a resume. But instead, how you need to restructure your profile is more about like number one is like a tagline, just kind of mentioning the service and like what's the benefit of the service, what does it allow business owners to do. Next is your about section, right? So inside your about section, generally you want to have something about like you, where your client's located, how long have you been inside the game, or how long have you been inside the field. If you've only been inside of like business for like, a month, or if you're still thinking about business, you can talk about your corporate experience. If you don't have corporate accounting experience, you just want to put your work experience, okay? Utilize what you have. You don't have to have an amazing like bio where, you've been on stage with Tony Robbins, have worked with a million different clients, etc. That's weird. My phone just went off. It's about starting with where you are, spinning in the best way that gets people to really focus on you and actually want to learn more about you. Then after that, inside of your about section, have a way for someone to go and take the next step. For me, I like to have a link inside of my bio that actually gets them to book a call on my calendar, right? So that way I don't even have to send messages to people. If they're looking for my service, they actually book on my calendar. It's a lot easier for me to actually go and get clients like that. So you can do that and take that tip as well. Then the final part is your education. You generally want to have a part about your new business and just really talk and break down like how you help people out, but you want to do it in very simple English. Like you don't want to do it in like Cantonese, right? It has to be very, very, very simple English that someone who's like maybe like has a third grade kind of reading lexile can really understand. Now, the next thing is when I'm talking about problems inside of the education section or the about section, I'm really talking about the problems that my ideal clients are facing. Now, when you go deep on the problems, then they just start seeing you more as a person who helped them solve their problems, right? So a lot of people think they have to have a million years of experience. Well, you don't. You can actually shortcut the experience by just going and showing that you have like a really kind of detailed understanding of their problems. Now, if you don't have and understand their problems, there's a couple things you can do. So number one, you could go and select like a niche. So whenever most people think of a niche, they're thinking about like which niche can go and pay me the most money. That's an okay way to view a niche, but that kind of leads people down to like choosing like a random thing, like they want to go and like work with like kite flyers, right? And then the kite flyer, they finally it takes 6 months to go talk to their first kite flyer. They get a kite flyer as a client, they hate it, right? A better way to go and pick a niche is two different like subsets. You can go based on the personality of the people you're speaking. So it can be a number of different fields, but you actually like talking to the person. So that actually causes you to want to be around that person and you develop expertise within that kind of that small range of fields that you're in very quickly. Another one is actually go look at the fields that you already like. Like, do you go to a church? Do you go to a dance studio? Do you do a lot with like car dealerships? Do you enjoy going to like bowling alleys? Like, what is something that you enjoy? And you start looking for either vendors or niches that are surrounding the things you enjoy. Maybe you're a real estate investor. Okay, well, maybe you can go to conventions or different things that have a lot of real estate investors or real estate agents inside. You can start really understanding the market. And then once you understand that market and you already have a natural affinity towards it because you actually like it, you can start going within that industry and start finding opportunities for what types of companies actually can afford to pay you more money, right? Because within every single industry and within every single niche, right, there are people that can afford to pay you. It's just most people tend to go and like go at the bottom of the niche. For example, a lot of people want to go after like truckers, and nothing wrong with truckers. I'm not saying anything bad, but if you're trying to get a trucker that's going to pay you between $500 to $5,000 a month, it can be a little bit challenging, especially because a lot of truckers, like if they're the independent contractor, they have no team, they have no one underneath them. They're generally going to be making between like 70,000 to about $200,000 per year. It's very hard for them to justify, paying a $60,000-$70,000 a year. But instead, if you go a level up, where you go out to a logistics company that maybe have a fleet of trucks, or if you go to like vendors that go to logistics, or even like the shipping containers, right? Those kind of companies can generally afford to pay you more, right? So it's about going up that value ladder within the niche that you're looking at. Another example is like churches, right? So inside the nonprofit space, some people like doing churches. Now, some churches who, maybe they only have like a few members, they're located maybe in a lower income area, they might be more challenged to pay you a high ticket monthly price, right? Versus a cathedral in the capital of a state in a high income, high powered zip code with millionaire and billionaires inside of the congregation who attend the service. Like that place is probably more likely to pay you a high amount of money. Now, one thing that can come as a consequence is that is the higher up that you could get paid from an organization, in some cases it can be a lot harder to get in, especially in the example I just gave with like church versus cathedral, right? Because in some cases they might have very exclusive in crowds, and if you're not really inside the in crowd, it can be very, very challenging. So there's two ways to handle that. Number one, you could go after a different industry or a different segment of the industry that has a higher paying nature but less of a clicky kind of like moat or barrier to entry around it. that's an easier path to kind of go down because there's always more fish in the sea. And in some cases, if you don't really fit in, rather than trying to go and fit in, you could just go and find your people. That can be a little bit more challenging. You do have to go wider, and it can take a little more time. The second way is to actually become a part of the in crowd. So when I was in college, I'll never forget this. This one professor, he actually said that entrepreneurship was extremely tough and that no one really makes an entrepreneurship. Now that I'm in entrepreneurship, it's just didn't really know what he's talking about. But really, what it comes down to, he did know this: there's something called an oligopoly in economics, right? It's a small group of people get 80% of the money inside of the industry, right? Now, most people don't like that. They're like, not the money should be spread out evenly, right? We don't want these three big companies getting all the money. We want every company to be making about the same. And that's cool in an idealistic society. However, in our society and just like, online space, an easier way is if you can become part of those three big companies, the oligopoly, right? You can actually reap the rewards and reap the benefits of it and have that moat kind of protected. So you can learn how to join the in crowd, right? Now, a big portion of that is learning like who you know. It's because it's not always about what you know, it's about who you know. That's why it's not really about the experience section, right? We talk about experience. A lot of people think, I don't have 40 years experience, I don't have this experience. It's not really about the experience in a lot of cases. For example, one of my students named Rick, he was an engineer. He had spent 6 months kind of learning bookkeeping at his job and like inside of our program before he started launching, right? As soon as he launched, the first client he got owned, it was like 31 parking lots in New York City. The guy ended up paying him, it was, I think it's like between $6,000 to $7,000 per month for that one client. That's his first client ever. He does not have 40 years experience. He does not have all this. He's not XYZ. He just had the proper skills. He had a plan. He had a pricing tool, which I give all the students like a pricing calculator. He had a sales script, so you know exactly what to say in the consultation call. And he just understood how to go and create those relationships. And we're going to continue talking about that throughout this video today. But always remember, you don't want to destroy the in crowds. You want to just learn how to become and navigate those in crowds. I'm not saying like the ones where they're like clicky and it's like mean people and they like disqualify people based on socioeconomic kind of things. What I'm saying is, if there's a group of people and they're like highly like guarded masterminds or groups of people that only want successful people in there, learn how to go and attract those people to want you to become inside of that group and then be able to go and make a lot of money. It's very easy when you actually just kind of like change your mindset around it. Now, next is going to be the networking effect. Okay, so one way you can break into that, and I learned this kind of from LinkedIn when I was first getting started, because I would have like a number of people, and it'd be like I would send them a connection request, and they would just ignore my message, and then all of a sudden, like 2 weeks, 3 weeks later, they'd be like, "Wait, how do you know Billy Bob Thornton?" It's like, well, I personally either met him at a networking event or I sent him a message on LinkedIn. He was a little bit more open to like talking, but as soon as they saw you had a connection who was mutual to them, who they knew and they respected, you actually had a halo effect, meaning that you transferred the respect that person A had for your mutual connection now is transferred to you. So you actually get the same kind of like foot in the door a lot easier. And that's what I started learning it. And they're just like, okay, so the more I could start doing that, the more that I started going and connecting with people who are interconnected. And it made it easier for me to go make those introductions and then be able to go and get it. And that leads to referrals, that leads to clients, that leads to opportunities like for random networking events or even speaking events inside a local area, and it takes off from there. Now, pillar two when it comes to this, right, is conversations. Now, conversations, the key is to learn how to make a friendship in the shortest amount of message possible. Ideally, you're going to do between 3 to about 10 messages back and forth on social media in order for them to really get an understanding of what you do. Now, I'm not going to tell you exactly what to say for every single one of the 10 messages. Like if you're in my program, I generally work with you to build a script for yourself to make sure you know exactly what to say. But the different parts of a messaging script is going to be connection. Okay, so that's just if you're on LinkedIn, you send a connection message. Now, they need to know exactly what you do. So that's generally you're an accountant, bookkeeper, CFO, maybe you're an insurance agent if you're watching. I don't really know exactly because I'm not sitting in front of you. Whatever you do, and they also know like why are you connecting with them. Okay, you don't want to be like have a hidden agenda where it's like, hey, I just want to be friends. The next message you're like, buy my stuff. It's not like that. You want to tell them up front, like, what are your intentions? What do you do? What is in it for you? What is in it for them? And then if they accept your connection request, they have basically said, okay, I am okay with this conversation. I'm okay with learning more about how you can help me with my accounting or bookkeeping. The next step is going to be about starting the conversation, right? So I like having message scripts where it's very simple, just getting people to respond. And if they don't want to respond, they just don't. Now, some people, might not like that just on the online digital space. They want to give like very specific messages. I just want to get the conversation started. I just want someone to reply so I know they're alive, I know they're getting my messages. Makes it very easy for me to kind of transition it there. Next, I'm starting to look for a problem inside the business. Now, when I say a problem, I'm not saying like a money problem. They need to have money. They need to be successful to a certain degree. I'm looking for this success has now caused other problems. So in life, right, you can't really have one without having the other. Now, for example, some people don't have money, right? So they don't have food, right? Now, what happens when you start getting money, right? A lot of people think that once you just start getting money, like all your problems kind of disappear, right? It's not really like that. Now your new problem becomes, okay, well, how do you save on taxes? Where do you spend your money? So now your riches become wealth, right? What should you buy? What should you not buy? How can you now spend more time? How can you deploy this money to be able to spend more time with your family? Right? There's all these different things that kind of come up. But it's the same thing when you're talking to a business owner, right? So you want to see, are they successful and what has been the fallout of that newfound success? Do they maybe have a parent-in-law who was doing the accounting, doing the bookkeeping, but now they just grown by $1 million a year more than what they were doing before, and the person just pulling their hair out every single day, crying in the office, overwhelmed and needs help, right? If that's the case, now you can start going and doing some urgency. Okay, so the next step is urgency. Okay, so now you have a problem. It's like, well, do they want to fix a problem? What do they want to fix the problem now? And what do they try to do to fix that problem? And then once you've done that, right now you can see the urgency. Now they're explaining to them, to both you and to themselves, that this is an urgent problem. Now you go into a CTA. Okay, so for the CTA, that's just a call to action. That's just the invitation to get them to a call, right? So you want them to know what the conversation on the phone is going to be about. It's about seeing if there's a potential fit that you can help them with their accounting or their bookkeeping or whatever service that you might be offering to them at the specific moment. Like maybe it's like tax planning or tax strategy. Now, the reason why it's so important is because you don't just want to get on the phone with just anyone, right? You want to make sure there's more context. Because I'm assuming that if you're watching this video, you're generally just getting started in your sales journey. So your sales skills are not amazing. Maybe you're going at this out on your own, so you don't have a good solid sales script, so you're just kind of winging it, right? So if you're just kind of winging it, or if you maybe have a little bit of success in sales, but it's just not your strong suit, you want to go and take the conversation as far and as close to a sale as possible inside of the messenger. So when you get on your consultation call, it's very, very easy. Now, as you get better and better, your conversations inside of the messenger can get shorter and shorter because you can have someone get on the phone with less context because one, you understand how to identify who has more money. Two, you can have disqualifying questions that are kind of like booby traps where if they say the wrong thing, you know they're not going to work with you or you know it's just not be a good fit. And then you don't really need to do as much because you can build a relationship over the call, right? But it also comes down to your preference and your skill set. I used to prefer doing a lot more like calls on the phone and like actually talking to the person, but just like as my time has kind of like gone down and down and down, I prefer to do a lot more inside of the messenger, so I don't have to spend a million hours on the phone, and it makes it a lot easier for me not to have like a huge sales team that has to either be doing cold calls or has to be like receiving a bunch of inbound inquiries. I actually had a conversation. I won't go into that, but I had a conversation with one of my sales coaches where his whole thing was like volume, volume, volume. You want to get as many people on the phone as possible. But from my accounting firm background, it's just like no, no, man. We know that if we get the right people on the phone, if you say the right things, if people like you, if they trust you, if they know you, if you can find the problem, it's a lot easier for you to get them to pay you more money. So rather than having to do a million calls, we're getting like clients for like $100 a month, right? You just focus on the right people, and the process kind of filters out the bad people, and it makes it easier for you to go and get it. I had this one gentleman named Brian. He's one of our newer students out of the program. So he knows how to get inside of the in crowd. He just didn't really know how to price the service and how to like do it without giving away a million hours of his time. So I told him, hey, you have to go and actually go and associate with this one or two people from your past who he hasn't talked to in like a number of years, right? So he did. He ended up going just using the sales script, just making it very simple. Just find the problems, find the pain, find the urgency. The guy ended up paying him $6,000 per month, right? They're signing the contract today. I had the meeting today, so it's really cool to be able to do that. But you don't need to do that much, and you don't need to talk to a million people if you can identify who is the person that has the money, who has the problem, who has the urgency, and who wants to fix that now. Okay, so that's the most important thing. Now, some things you can also say as well, right? The things that are going to boost how easy it is for you to book calls with business owners that are very successful is number one, like what do you say, right? That's part. Everyone wants like a script, right, of some sort. They want, what should I say? Okay, that's only about 25% of the battle. It's what you say. Next is how do you acknowledge what they say? So if they maybe say something, do you have like a, oh, great, nice, awesome, thanks for sharing, I appreciate that, I see, right? You want to have that in between there, what you say, they say something, you just acknowledge you actually read and you actually heard it. Okay, you don't just want to be going down a script. You want to make sure they have like this filler things. Next, it's how quickly do you reply, right? Do you make them wait a whole day? On social media, people generally they'll be on their phone, and the more successful someone is, the less often they check their phone. It's just kind of a trend that I've kind of seen. Because generally you're gonna be busy, right? So let's say you're in construction, you're in the field, or you're talking to meetings, or you're going back and forth, right? You're not gonna be on social media just scrolling the messenger. So you have to make sure that if you're trying to go and get someone to get on a call with you, you can do it in very short, fast bursts, right? So it's like as soon as they reply, you want to be able to at least get back to them in a timely manner. Now, if you can't be on your phone because maybe you're doing a job or you're doing work, that's okay. I'm not saying it has to be like 24 seconds later, but you want to be able to at least have one of those filler acknowledger words before you then go and take a break, right? So one thing I like doing is I like actually having it on my phone. So whether it's a LinkedIn app or whether it's a Facebook app, so I can at least see when a call comes in, so I can actually be able to do something about that and then be able to kind of move the conversation forward. He said 6, what? 5 p.m., 8 p.m. Sorry, one of my teammates is texting me a question. But that's what we're saying. So we want to make sure that we can go deeply. Yes. So you don't have to do it right away, but if you have it on your phone, it makes it very easy for you to be able to kind of see something coming in. And if you have time, be able to reply to it and respond to it in a very timely manner. Next thing that's going to impact is how deeply into the problems can you get them to go. If they give you this paragraph long about a rant about how their current accounting firm, the CPA firm they're working with, never returns their calls, never texts them back, they speak to 5 or 6 different people in order to actually go and get an answer, that's someone who's in a lot more pain than someone's like, oh, I'm just in the research phase. I heard about maybe getting a bookkeeper, but I don't know, right? It's very nonchalant. So how deep do the problems actually go? And then finally, really, if you find someone who's very kind of nonchalant or not super like into why they need your help, you could just start challenging them, right? So like, why can't they do it themselves? Why can't they just hire someone up the street? Why is accounting and bookkeeping like why is it important to fix this problem for them, right? And the more you kind of disqualify some people, especially if they're more type A personalities, like hey, maybe it's just not a good fit, the more they lean like, well, maybe it could be a good fit. What do you mean you're disqualifying me? You Certain business owners, like as you start learning the nature of business owners, right, you can just start noticing like how you can kind of like play the game of like talking, pulling back, being fun, and moving. Someone said, do you find it's easy to convert someone from wanting to hire an employee to getting them to hire you as a self-employed bookkeeper? It depends on the person. It really depends on the person, and depends how deeply can you do it in Messenger. So if you try and like get on the phone, like surprise them, like for example, maybe you go on like Indeed.com, you book it as like an interview, and then you like come on like, hey, instead of me being an employee, I just want to be a virtual contractor. When you said that you wanted someone up the street next door to you inside of your office, right? If it's like a mismatch, it can be kind of tough. If instead you were to go and actually approach it on LinkedIn, you have more of a back and forth conversation first. They understand that. Then when you actually come on the consultation call, they're in understanding of what you're trying to do and that they know that, hey, this is kind of the game plan. This is what you're thinking about doing. You don't surprise them. That's when your percentage of that working goes up a lot higher. Now, it's very similar to like we were talking about on LinkedIn, right? Whatever you're trying to do, the better at sales that you are and the better at persuasion you are, the less the less warning you need to give that person. If you're not good at sales, if you're nervous, if you don't know how to advocate for yourself, then trying to actually, get that position when someone's looking for an employee and you do it like on the sales call or the interview and you start trying to pressure them because you just don't really know how to persuade, that's when that can get kind of challenging. So hopefully I answered that person's question. I know you asked it a couple minutes ago, but I just didn't see it because I'm looking more at my thing. So if you actually want this document that I'm reading off of, which has all my different notes and stuff, go ahead and write down 51823 document. So 518 document. Yeah, this person said, thank you. Oh, cool. So it looks like you only asked that question 3 minutes ago. Nice, cool. Yeah, I'm using a tool called Restream. So the way that it's displaying the data is very interesting. Um, Cool. And then the final thing is make sure when you're doing your message sequence, it should feel like a mini consultation call. Like a lot of the questions you're asking should be what, taking a step back, assuming you're doing your consultation calls right, it should feel like a consultation call. Like you should feel like you're asking them very deep questions. You should feel like you're getting them to talk about like the reasons why it's important for them, not just saying like how many accounts they have, how many transactions is it, do they want you to do AP, do they want you to do AR, do they also need payroll, do they want you to do sales tax. Like it's not just about that. It's about what are the emotions behind it, because we can get someone to be in more of an emotional state and have either have an anger that they're not at their goal, or frustration, or even kind of a fear that maybe if they don't do the right thing, something's going to happen to their business. Like that's what you kind of need in order to really charge a higher price point. So your consultation calls and your messenger process should go through that process and through those stages very consistently, because remember, the deeper you go in the conversation on messenger, the easier the consultation calls will go. So that is how she actually went and got those 3 clients. The marketing method she used was building based on LinkedIn. And then I think I'll cover sales in like another video. If you want for me to go into more detail about the sales required to the sales skills required to actually sign clients at a much higher price point and a much higher frequency and consistency, go ahead and write down sales system. Write down sales system. SALESSYSTEM. Sales system. And I'll be sure to send that to you. If you're watching on YouTube, I'll send it to you in the comments. On Facebook, I'll send it to you in a message when I get a chance and when I get some time, or I'll have my admin do it. Also, if you want some help growing your business, maybe you know that you're destined for more. You know that you have certain goals, but it just doesn't look like the speed and trajectory you're on is going to reach them in the time frame you want. Go ahead and click on the link inside the description below to book a call with me and see if I can help you. I cannot help everybody out. It's a very specific set of steps and process we do in order to get you to your goal. But it's not for everybody. It's for people who are serious, people who want help, people who are ready to improve, ready to change, and actually reach their goal. If it's more of just like it's something that you're thinking about, something that's kind of fun, but it's not serious, like you don't actually know, like you're not committed to hitting it might be a little bit intense. So we can slow it down based on that, and you don't have to go at a million miles an hour. Like if your goal is just to make like $3 grand a month, $5 grand a month, we can get you there. We can do it in a very relaxed pace. If your goal is to get to like 10 grand a month or 20 grand a month in the span of like 3 to 6 months, right? It might be a slightly different pace, but let's go and see if it's a good fit. Let's see if the game plan we have makes sense for both parties involved. And if it makes sense, then we can get you started right on the call. If that's you, I will see you on the call. If you're not quite ready, that's a-okay too. We have a lot of free content, so you can learn and you can really get an understanding of this business model. Until next time, or until I see you on the call, have a great rest of your day. Take it easy. Talk to you soon.